So, I decided to give another dating app, site, whatever you want to call it, or a website that has dating option. So, I tried Facebook dating. I've tried Facebook dating before. It's strange. I was talking to a guy one time, and it was so weird. He was like, I live too far away. I didn't live that far away. And then we were talking. Then it was like, oh, he came out and he was like, he was in jail at one point, and then he like lived in this town where it's like I haven't heard good things about this town, but not enough happens there where it makes the news. And he was like, he had this girlfriend. He would not marry her. He was with her for years, but he paid for fertility treatment, and it was like, okay. And then he was like upset because I didn't want to fight. Then there was this other guy, because that guy, he doesn't talk to me anymore because it turns out he was just crazy, and he was like doing like some crazy stuff, and we don't talk anymore. But then there's this other guy. He was like, he liked me so much. He was a nice guy, but he couldn't talk to me anymore because he was too religious. And he said he liked me, and he liked me too much but we never even met in person. We just talked. I never met the other guy either. We just talked. But he was like, I caused him issues with his religion. He liked me because he was a very devout Muslim, and he liked me, and he wanted to get married, but he was pushing 45, saving himself for marriage. And he couldn't be in the same room with women that he liked because it caused him issues. He was a nice guy. He'd call me, talk to me, but then he would like tell me I was a New York girl, a New York City girl all the time. And I'm like, why are you always telling me I'm a New York City girl? And he thought he was telling me I'm nice. And I'm like, I'm not from New York City. And he's thinking I'm saying I'm not a nice person. And he's actually saying you're a New York City girl. And because he thought that meant nice. I'm not sure where, because he's from a different country. And it was like he was a nice guy, and he was like, he was all about health and fitness, and he was on a weight loss journey and everything. He wasn't even that big. He was just like, he wanted to be really skinny. And he ended up accomplishing that because he stopped talking to me. And then he started dating someone who was actually trying to sleep with him, but he didn't like them. But he was dating someone that was trying to sleep with him, which I thought was hilarious. And he's like, I was dating this girl. She kept trying to sleep with me. And he was like, I like you. But it was like, I never tried to sleep with you. But he could spend time with her, who was actively trying to sleep with him. But he said he couldn't spend time with me because he liked me, but he wanted to marry me, but he couldn't be around me. But he would call me after like the whole thing, because what really upset him with me was he liked me, and he's like, I'll go to the doctor, I'll do anything you want, I'll go to the doctor. I'm like, I didn't ask you to go to the doctor, I asked you to go to the dentist. And he was so freaked out because in his country, the dentists are people that are sitting on the side of the road, and they put stuff in your mouth, and they build stuff and put it in your mouth, and he's seen it, and then he's just like freaked out by the dentist because he's from Pakistan, and they had dentists on the side of the road. Because it was like, at first I was like, okay, you're scared of the dentist, there's nice dentists. And then he's thinking like third world country dentist, like just a random person on the side of the road. Because imagine if like you had a toothache, and then you went to a homeless person on the street, and then they start putting their hands in their mouth, and they found something and built it and put it in your mouth, and it's like, what the hell is going on? You would be like, okay, that person's crazy as fuck. But that was normal in his country, so he didn't go to the dentist because he was like freaked out, scared. So he broke up with, well, he ended the conversation, and we talked for a while because he was a truck driver and everything. He was a nice guy. But then he called me back because he realized he liked me. And he was like, I like you better than all these other people. And then he was even willing to go to the dentist. But then he was like, yeah, I like you and I'll even go to the dentist for you, but I like you too much. I can't be around you. And then that's when he started telling me he was dating some woman who kept trying to sleep with him. And he was just like, no, he didn't want to. But I just found it hilarious because he could spend time with the woman that tried to sleep with him, but he was like, that didn't affect his religion and his beliefs, which I thought was hilarious. But me, who never tried anything with him, would affect his religion and beliefs, but he wanted to marry me. And it's like, okay. And he's like, yeah, we can't be in a room alone together until we're married. And I'm like, okay. And then it was like, we could go out to dinner, he would say. It was hilarious. But then we ended up breaking up because of, I didn't have an issue with Ramadan. I had an issue with him not eating. And the only reason I had an issue with him not eating because he was working and he was a truck driver. And I was like, you need to eat so you don't get hungry and pass out while you're driving. And I was like, it's more of a safety issue. It's not a religion thing. It's like, I'm fine with you doing whatever you want with your religion. I don't really care. It's more of a road safety thing. You being starving, hungry, and dehydrated and dizzy and passing out or falling asleep or something. But he was really nice. And every few months he calls me to tell me he likes me. And the weird thing is, he's not trying to get a green card from me because he already has his papers. But I've been on OkCupid. I mean, not OkCupid. I've been on Facebook dating recently, trying it out again to see if there's anything out there. And there was this one guy, I was just joking with him. I'm like, do you want to be friends? Do you want to be in a relationship? Or do you just want to be nothing? Because I'm like, you want to make out, be friends, or nothing? And he was like, he responded first and like, we had stuff in common. And then it was like, okay, he stopped talking to me. I'm not sure why. And then I realized something. Why are there so many men from India? Yeah. And then there are like a lot of Sikh men. And I don't understand like what's going on in the Sikh culture. Because like most Sikh guys I meet, they seem nice, but then they like you. And then it's like, okay, I'm not trying to sleep with you, but you seem like a sex addict. And I'm not sure if that's something that's like normal in the culture or just like with the American born people or whatever. Because I've seen plenty of cute, really cute Sikh guys. And once I start talking to them or something, and it's like, I don't really see Sikh guys that much unless I go somewhere else because where I live is not very diverse. But when I go somewhere else and I meet people, and then we're talking, and then it's like, oh, or online dating or something, and it's like, okay, this is really weird. You seem like you have a sexual addiction. And then they're like, it's no problem. And it's like, you're trying to have one, but it's like, it's not working out for you because no one's sleeping with you, but you want to be a sex addict, but it's not working for you. And it's like weird. So I matched with a bunch of people on Facebook, and there was this one guy. He seemed like he could have been potential. I wanted to give him a makeover because a lot of the guys I see, it's like, I don't look at you for how you look. I look at you for how you can look. Like, there's one thing that I definitely check. I check your teeth. And I check your hands. If you have clean hands and good teeth, or at least good structure for teeth, then I'll give you a chance. But if I start seeing like stuff on your face that's making me think you need a blood test, then it's like, yeah, that's not going to work out. And if I see face tattoos, neck tattoos, covered in tattoos, I'm like, no. But if you have good skin or skin with the possibility of being clear, and you still have hair. Yeah, because hair, good skin, hair, good skin, clean hands, nails. And then one way, like once I get to know you and like if we go out, one way where I know if it can work out is if I go to your bathroom. Going to your bathroom lets me know if there could be potential. And the only reason why I say that is because then I can see if you use a bar of soap, body soap, doesn't matter as long as you use soap. And then I can see if you use shampoo, soap, and then I can see what you use for your face. It's like, I don't really care what you use, but have something that's specific for your face. I find that to be important. To have something for your face, to clean your face, something to clean your body, whether it be a bar of soap or shower gel, and have like a towel, because it's good that you have towels, not just one towel. And then, yeah, just like little things like that I notice that I feel are important in a relationship. Because if you have a towel and you have soap for your body, you have a towel, you have soap for your body. Oh, and then it's important also that you don't use the same soap that you clean your body with. Like, don't use like a bar of soap you clean your body with as the soap you wash your hands with after you go to the bathroom. That's also important because then I know that you're showering and you're not using that same soap. And then it's also not good if you're using the same soap you use in the shower to clean your face. And I like a man that cleans his face either before or after he gets out of the shower. Yeah, and I'm not even looking for a metrosexual. I'm just looking for a man that has body soap, shampoo, a face wash, all that good stuff. Um, and those things are hard to find because a man with clean hands and he doesn't have dirt under his nails, that is a good thing. But you know what's really nice? If you date a guy and say he's like a mechanic, and then, like mechanics, they're with like the oil and stuff all the time. So if a guy is a mechanic and he has oils on his hands all the time, and say if that man has hand lotion and his hands are clean and he has like soap, a man, because like some guys, they're like, oh, I'm a mechanic, my hands are dirty. I like a man where he's like, no, I'm a mechanic, my hands are clean. Yeah, I like that. I find that really appealing. And I also like, yeah, but I was talking to this guy, he seemed cool. And then, oh, if you heard that, it's because I was looking for something. I was watching a movie, now I can't find it because it went like off, and I was watching Amazon, and I'm trying to find the movie, but I don't know how to find a movie if it doesn't just pop up and I was just watching it. But back to, I was talking to this guy on Facebook dating, and I was trying to figure out like what does he do for a living. And then he's like, because I was like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a husband. I'm looking for a man who's stable. I don't expect a man to support me, but I do expect a man, because if I get in a serious relationship and get married, there's always potential you can get pregnant and have a baby. And most people want to get pregnant and have a baby. So I'm thinking if I did get married and have a baby, I'm going to be on maternity leave for a bit. So if I'm on maternity leave, I'm not, and from my understanding, you don't get money on maternity leave, like disability or whatever. So I'm thinking this man, because it's like you're going to save up and like cut back and you're going to have credit cards and everything. But I'm thinking he's going to be the main breadwinner. And that's why it's always important that a man makes more money, because if you and your wife ever have kids, she's going to go out on maternity leave at some point, most likely. And if she does, who's going to take care of the family? Or who's going to take care of you financially? Because I'm thinking if I'm having a baby out there and everything, and then my income's gone, is he going to be able to cover the bills? Are there enough credit cards to cover the bills? How is that going to work out? So I find that to be an important thing in a relationship. But also, I think it's important that if it sounds like I'm pausing, because I'm looking for this movie that I was watching and it just like disappeared. And then I went back to my search and I can't find it, but I'm looking. But I might have found something else. But I was talking to this guy and he was saying that he was in school to be a barber. I'm not hating on barbers, but I live in the suburbs. If I got married and had a relationship with this guy, I would end up moving to somewhere where it's more expensive. And I'm just thinking, if I did get in a relationship with this guy, move somewhere, because if I move, my rent's going to go up more than twice what it is now. So that would mean he would have to pay half, because whether that's an apartment or a house or whatever, an apartment, my rent's going to go up to way more, because right now, the place that I live, if I didn't live here so long, my rent would be almost $3,000. But because I've lived here so long, my rent is not even half that. Well, it actually is half that. Actually, more than half that. But my rent would be closer to like $3,000. But because I lived here so long, my rent's going up gradually. But if I move somewhere, $3,000, I'd be lucky if I found a place for $3,000. Especially if I got married and I need bigger space, like 2 bedrooms, at least 2 bathrooms. And if there was a kid, at least 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms or 2.5 baths. And that could be like $4,500 a month. And say I have a kid, I go on maternity leave. That means he would be responsible for $4,500, like anywhere from $3,500 to $4,500 a month in rent, plus food, utilities, and all that stuff, and whatever other bills there are. And then he most likely wouldn't be working either, because I would need help at some point, at least for the first few months or weeks. And he's in school to be a barber. And like most barbers I know are homeless. They're homeless or they're living with their mother. And it's like, I'm not being a hater, but especially in just like a basic barber shop. And this guy was white, and I don't know too many white guys that are paying more than $10 for a haircut, unless he's opening like a haircut place somewhere and that's like really busy. And they take like 15 or 20, like 15 minutes maybe a haircut. But haircuts for men, I'm assuming they take more than like 15 or 20 minutes. Because I'm thinking like the haircuts they advertise, like where they have the sign and it says like $10 in the window. And if you're cutting, it's going to take you at least a half an hour to get somebody's haircut right, and they're looking in the mirror and everything. And I'm just thinking, you cut two people's hair, maybe 10. Sometimes I'll see like $20, but rarely I see one. Like those quick haircut places, like $20. Most of the time it's like $10, $12, and maybe every now and then 15. But if you're getting haircuts like that and you're the only barber, or if there are other barbers, and that means you might not make any money in a day unless you're on a salary place. And I don't think like Supercuts or whatever other places out there are paying that much if they're charging $10 a haircut and you might only be doing two people an hour. So, and you say you make the money, you all the money you get are the people that pay, and you have to pay for supplies and whatever else, because I don't think they don't wash their hair in those places. But say that's two people in an hour, that's $20. You made $20, and whatever supplies you have, your money's coming out of that, and then taxes. So I'm looking at taxes and whatever supplies. Say they're charging you $5 an hour for supplies, and then you have to pay for your booth, supplies, your booth, and taxes. You might have made $5 an hour, depending on, or less, depending on what's going on. And I'm just thinking, why would I date this guy? Because I'm basically gonna have to support him. And then I was like, yeah, so what do you do? Because basically, I think he's unemployed now because he said he's in school and he didn't make any comments about a job. Because when I said job, he said he was in school. And it was like, okay, if you're in school, because he was like 40 something. And it was like, okay, if you were in school to be a lawyer, a doctor, and getting your master's in something, and you already had a job, or your doctorate in something, because he's at that age where he should either be getting a master's or a doctorate or taking a specialized class. But he's like, I'm gonna go be a barber. And it's like, okay. And then you're not really gonna make any money, most likely, because I don't know how much barber school costs, but you're gonna have to pay that back, however much that costs. So, and then you have to take state tests and stuff. So I'm just seeing it as, you're like 40 something years old, you went to a school where you're not going to make much money unless you're doing stuff under the table, and even then you're not making that much money. And I'm just like, okay, why don't you just go to community college and learn landscaping or automotive or anything that would make you more money than being a barber? And so, and not even like, you don't even have to do that. There are other skills and things. You could go become a programmer or anything and use those skills. Or even if you just do anything and who cares what you do, you just get the degree. The degree can help you go on to another degree and then move into a higher paying job. Because one thing I found out that no one ever tells you, and I think they should tell you this when you're in high school, and I know if they would have told me this in high school, it would have changed the trajectory of my life and my student loan debt. Because people said go to community college, but no one ever explained why. But also, people should have said, if you get, cause you have to have 48 degree, not 48 degrees, 48 units. I know this is for the state of California. If you have 48 units and no criminal record, you can work in most positions. You can work as a teacher's aide, a yard person, and then if you get ECE units, you can work in the early education department, which will provide you a job pretty much all year, benefits and everything. And all you have to do is that if you get an associate's, that, or 48 units means you don't have to test or anything, and you can do all that if you get 48 college units. And then you add 3, and yeah, or if you can do it in your free time as a side job, as a substitute in some school districts. and different things. And another thing, if you get your bachelor's degree, you can be a substitute teacher in the state of California. All you have to do is have your bachelor's degree. But depending on where your bachelor's degree is from, you need to make sure you take, I think it was accounting and statistics. You need accounting, statistics, and algebra. Because you could have a degree in art, go to an art school, a private school, or somewhere, and they might not have you take those classes. You might take something else, and they give you a degree. And also, something that I wish that I learned when I was young is that you want to make sure you go to an accredited college. Your college isn't accredited, you do not get to transfer those units, and they do not count. And I was just going over this because, like, when I see potential, well, that guy, I didn't really see all that much potential in him after he was like, he's 40 something, going to school to be a barber. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to make much money doing that. And you sure as hell can't support a family. And it's like, I don't even have an extravagant lifestyle. I'm pretty damn basic. But he was like, basically, he needs a sugar mama to take care of him. And I'm like, yeah, I don't do that. And then also, because another thing I like to do when I'm talking to somebody, I like to message them. I like to see how they write and stuff. And then we were talking, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think, because I thought he was from a different country. Turns out, nope, he's from this country. He's a white boy from this country that has a problem speaking, because it was like he kept writing stuff, and I'm like, okay, are you from a different country? Because you're saying stuff that sounds weird. And then he's like, no. And I'm like, why can't you type correctly? And he's like, then he made an excuse he was busy doing something. And I'm like, okay, you can't type correctly at all, even like when you're not. And we talked on a few occasions. And then I was like, yeah, no, this is odd. I don't understand. You say you're American born and raised, but you can't type in English, and nothing, and what you say doesn't really make any sense. And I have to write what you write correct, or what I think you mean, and then ask you, did you mean that? And if I have to do that, then there's like, what's going on? If I'm writing stuff to ask you, is that what you meant? But you say you're a Native American speaker. You're, yeah, you speak English as your native language, but you can't read and write. And then you went to school in the US. Because some people I've met where they're American speakers, or they were raised in America for some extent, but then they went to another country and then they had schooling there, and they might have written in a different language and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I can understand that. But this guy, he said he had an American education in the I'm assuming public school system, but he couldn't write. And it was weird. So things didn't work out between him and I, and he's like, why? And I'm like, because you don't speak English. And I was like, yeah, because I was like, I'm looking to have children someday. And if I'm having children someday, I probably don't want to send them to public school unless I have to. I'd rather have them home and homeschooling and travel around and go to different places so they can learn about all the stuff that they're learning about. Like if I'm teaching them about animals, like in kindergarten, I'm teaching them about animals, I'm going to go take them to see the animal. If they want to see a panda, we're going to go to San Diego and go see a panda. We're probably going to go, I think they have pandas in DC still. We're going to go see a panda. You want to go see a shark? I'm going to go take you to see a shark, an otter, and different stuff around the place. And then I'm going to teach you history at the same time. And then I'm going to have to teach you reading and writing and math and all that stuff and science. And I was like, if I'm doing all this, I want it to be a joint venture between me and the person that I marry, where we're teaching the children and stuff. And I'm like, I wouldn't want you to teach my child because you can't speak English and you can't read or write. And I was like, I don't think you're a good example around children, where if I had them, I wouldn't want you around them. And he's like, why? He's like, I'm a good role model. And I'm like, no, you're not. Because I don't necessarily think college is necessary, but I think reading and writing, being able to read and write, is necessary. Because I know, like, older people, I've met plenty of older people. They didn't go to college and different things, but basically, what college education is today, or trade school education, they had that was basically their high school education. Now we're basically paying what people paid for, like, back in the 60s, 50s, 20s, and 30s. Even if you went to a bad school, you had a skill, you knew how to read and write. You might not have been the best in your class, where people call you dumb, but you're still smarter than the dumbest person today. Because these days you can use a calculator, figure it out. You can think about it, use a calculator, figure it out, and guess if you're right. Back in the old days, when they called you dumb, it was like you weren't dumb. You were way smarter than the people today, because you had to figure that shit out in your head, or write it down on paper and figure it out. So I have no issue with someone with just having a high school education. It's just like, okay, have your education and everything, and be qualified, get a trade, do whatever. I don't care. But if you can't read and write, where if we choose to homeschool children and you're teaching them to read and write, and you're like, what is you doing? We can't be together, because I can't take you seriously. When I was a kid, if I never said anything like that, because I was never allowed to, because more was expected from me. In my house when I was a kid, if I would have said something like, what is you doing? That wasn't okay. It was like, what are you doing? How are you doing? Or whatever. And I had to read and write. My parents made me read and write. So that wasn't an option. And if I can't have a person that values education, because everything you do, math is important. But I think reading and writing is even more important, because if you can read and write, you can get further in the world, where, like, you can read and you can know what's going on. It's like math, you can lose out on money and everything, and you might have trouble, but reading, you'll at least know what's going on. Like, somebody can write you a letter and say, oh, we're going to steal from you or whatever. But math, it's like, okay, you're not the best, but you need to know at least adding, subtracting, and being able to divide. And when I think of, like, adding, subtracting, multiplication, division, and stuff, like, I remember you used to have to solve for something, and it's like, I wasn't the best at that, but I could always figure out how many times something goes into each other, and then roughly calculate in my head how many times. But I prefer a calculator with division. But so, like, if I was doing, like, some division homework, I would use a calculator. But roughly thinking in my head, like, if I'm somewhere trying to figure out, is it cheaper to buy this or that, I think in my head, and I do it, and, like, divide up to figure out how many ounces and which costs more. I want someone that can do that. And just, like, basic, it's like, I'm not expecting you to solve for X or anything. Just basic everyday living skills. And this guy, he didn't have it. And then at 40, he's going to school. Because I would think at 40, you would know better. It's like, yeah, you're not making that much as a barber, most likely. Yeah, because I know the barber place near my house, they charge like $10 a haircut. And they're only seeing like one or two people an hour, if that. And that's on a busy day. Yeah, so, and that's not even, and the weird part is, that's not even their main business, because it might be a barber shop, a nail salon, a waxing place, and they also have a beauty salon. where they cut men and women's hair. And sometimes they'll have like where they just cut your hair and you sit in the chair and they cut your hair, but they don't wash it and they just cut it. And they'll have the nail place, and then they'll have the waxing area. And then sometimes they'll even have notary services, and they'll have like different stuff like that. Like basically a lot of that stuff where you can go for like a day or two and get qualified, and they're like a bunch of different things, and then they'll put it all in one business. And if you need it, you need something notarized, you need something copied, you need something printed, you need something shipped, all that type of stuff, they'll have it in there when they're selling the cheap haircuts for $10. Yeah, because I know there's one place I used to go to. It was a beauty salon. They would give haircuts in the back for $10, and they would also wax your eyebrows, and they had a bunch of beauty supply stuff. But then they also had a notary and a printing space, and some other quick things, because it was like stuff you could do and charge. Cause like you print a piece of paper, they're going to charge you a dollar or something for a minute or so. And then you want to print, that's like $2 to print. Yeah, so it's like you use that computer for like 5 minutes, they just made $8. And their internet bill is like $50 a month or whatever. And they made $8 in 8 minutes. Actually, $8 in like 5 minutes. So it's like, they're making money. But I don't know a barber that's not homeless, because I'm in California. And to rent a basic place like right now, a basic like 1-bedroom apartment, you need to have like $3,000. And that's just for the rent. So if you go out and get a place, you need to have 3 times the rent. So that's like $9,000 a month. How is this guy going to get a place? But it didn't work out for us. And Facebook dating, it seems like one of the worst places to find a date. I don't know. Everyone seems like they might be broke, homeless, in jail, or maybe just out of jail. Have a bunch of kids, secret kids, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But that's Facebook dating. I'll keep you updated. I'll keep trying and keep you updated.